Hello, good morning. I We often hear that that the power um displayed in a country, is often held in the individual person's hands, you know, um and that individually, you know, the decisions that we make um have an impact on government and their decisions and industry, um and all of those things. With that in mind, I wrote some things last night. I was going to do a video last night actually, but decided against it. So I'm going to read it out and let you make the decision. So what I'm about to read out is publicly available information that I think is relevant to you in your own life. And let me read it out first. So it's research really, that I've written. So two gents by the names of Frederick Mackay and Dr. G.V. Black. Right, they came across, Frederick Mackay came across a community. It was a mining community somewhere in America, Ohio or somewhere like that it was. And it was at the turn of the century of the 1900s, you know. He moved area. He worked as a dentist and he wanted to, open up a practice elsewhere. So he went to this mining area, Colorado maybe. Is that Ohio? I'm not too sure. But anyway, the name we've given the thing he came across is called fluorosis, right? So he came across this community that he moved into, and they were all suffering from this coloration on their teeth, this browning, this brown stain on their teeth, and he'd never come across it before. And these people that had staining on their teeth, they were resistant to decay and cavities, and started his observations. He convinced this other researcher, this practitioner, Dr. G.V. Black, to come because he didn't believe him. So he came and saw it for himself, and then obviously the observations and the documentation of what they were seeing started. So anyway, time went by. Eventually, the discovery of fluoride was made in a town, and the town was owned and run by an aluminium factory. Right now, all these people started to get this browning on the teeth, and Dr. G.V. Black was invited there to do studies. They didn't know what it was then, right? Or it was only by comparing that site area with others in the country that came up that they identified what it was, fluoride in the teeth. And now fluoride is the 13th most abundant element, right? In elements. Before I go on, I just wanted to. So that's the beginning of the story really with fluoride. Fluoride's a naturally occurring element. It's in the rocks and everything else. What we do know now about that first incidence of going to the mining town is the fluoride was in the rocks, and they were breaking the rocks for ore, for iron ore, right? And it occurs there. So they were getting an excess of this mineral, and it was causing brown staining on their teeth, but it also hardened the bone, the teeth. So it resisted decay and cavity. So the Second World War ended, right, and the war machine turned to peacetime production, right. And the impact of fluoride on human teeth was recognised in 1909, and the connection between mottled brown enamel and high fluoride was made in 1931, and found that a concentration of 1 part per million offered some protection, whilst minimising dental fluorosis. So the fluorosis is a cause, of too much, is a consequence of too much fluoride. So they recommend 1 part per million, right, as a daily intake, right, and so that's that. In 1945, mass fluoridization took place, along with a sustained combat campaign to some people might say inform, and others might say pressure people into believing fluoride is healthy. Right, so you make your own decisions about whether it's healthy or not. Remember, fluoride is being encouraged by the government right at this moment, alongside Colgate, right, to put this stuff into a child's mouth daily at school as an education process. Okay, so you like I say, the power is in your own hands, and for you to make the decisions. So fluoride, they say, saves money for families and the healthcare system. It keeps teeth strong and reduces cavities by 25%. Right. Now I'll ask and raise the question. Look at the dentistry, the orthopedic industry. If you or I want to go for a dentist appointment, there's a waiting list. The reason that the government are talking about bringing brushing into schools and Colgate into schools, is because of the decay that is in children's mouths, and the long-term effects that has into adulthood. Now, I'd suggest that what they're doing is back to front, and I won't say poison you. Like I say, really, you should make your own decisions. I don't use this stuff. I use as little as possible fluoride. I use baking soda toothpaste. So, fluorosis, right? So they say that children should be supervised while brushing to prevent swallowing. Right, swallowing the fluoride. And you got to bear in mind also 1 part per million. That's quite specific. And toothpaste, water, food that's produced with water. All of these things, they have an accumulative effect, right? Fluorosis, an excess displayed by brown staining. Young children are at a higher risk. Skeletal these are things. There's loads of different. There's more than this, right? But I'm going to read out this stuff. These are findings that have been made over time, and you don't hear about them because it's suppressed. Because you've got a massive industry, a few massive industries being born or have been born, off the back of this stuff. This stuff here, this fluoride, is a byproduct of the aluminium and the iron ore industries. It's waste, effluent. So, skeletal fluorosis, a bone disease, can damage the parathyroid gland, which results in uncontrolled secretion of hormones, causes skeletal fibrosis, a depletion of calcium on the bones, and a higher than normal concentration of calcium in the blood. 2017 report suggested exposure to fluoride before birth can lead to poorer cognitive outcomes. Fluoride is a neurotoxin and is hazardous to child development, lower fertility, bone cancer, and other conditions affecting the joints and bones, early puberty in girls, heart failure, acne, arterial calcification, ADHD, myocardial damage, and many others. Right? These are proven facts. These are not conspiracies or theories or anything like that, right? There's links to these things. So it's not, healthy. You decide on those things. When I first found out about fluoride, really, and the story behind it, and the possible outcomes and things, it immediately went in the bin. As a consequence, my teeth are quite bad. I'm not suggesting it's because of the fluoride. But one thing that I did notice as soon as I stopped using fluoride toothpaste and switched to sodium bicarbonate toothpaste, is toothache disappeared. It went. Totally just disappeared. It's not making my teeth any whiter. I'm not expecting that though. My teeth are in such a state that it takes some real rejuvenation, and that's something that I'm looking into as well, because I am hearing, because I'm researching it more and more, I am seeing, possibilities for rejuvenating enamel and teeth, naturally rebuilding. Anyway, so one thing that interested me really in the first part of this researching that I've done was the scale on the table, the atomic table, and it is a electronegative element. What that really means is the electrons circle closer to the nucleus, closer to the center, and because of that, it has a bigger pull, a bigger attraction, and it basically means that the electrons in fluoride is revolving closer to the nucleus, the center, and is able to attract and bond with other elements. In fact, fluorine's electrons will bond with all metal and non-metals, and is a very strong oxidizing agent. I said, in my previous video, I said about, this body and this system and everything else. The electrolytes we're an electrical system here, So putting stuff like this in us and messing about with our electrolytes and God knows what else is being done internally, the consequences of which, you might never discover unless you actually withdraw from it, and it seems very insidious, when you combine all of these different things, health for who? Health for what? So I ask you, fluoride, is it something you want in your life? your children's lives.